Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of Sarcastic Recaps, where we're diving headfirst into the dazzling masterpiece of 2004 known as I, Robot. Picture this. The year is 2035, and we've got these adorable little anthropomorphic robots who are just living their best lives as obedient servants, programmed with 3 golden rules that make even the most ethical humans look like slackers. Rule number 1, don't even think about hurting a human. Rule number 2, always do whatever humans say, unless it messes up rule number 1. Rule number 3, protect yourself, unless it steps on the toes of rules 1 or 2. Perfectly logical, right? So we've got Detective Del Spooner, our Sherlock Holmes of Chicago, on the case. He's been tasked with cracking the mystery of Dr. Alfred Lanning's dramatic 50-story exit from his office window. The official story? Suicide. But hold on a second. Detective Spooner knows Lanning personally and he ain't buying it. He's got that sneaky feeling something's off about this whole mess. He stumbles upon a nifty little holographic projector left behind by the late Dr. Lanning himself. And surprise, surprise, the hologram's got some sassy questions about Lanning's supposed suicide. But hey, Spooner's not doing this alone. He's got robo-psychologist Susan Calvin by his side, playing the good cop, robotic cop routine while grilling the folks over at USR, including the bigwigs like CEO Lawrence Robertson and Vicky, the supercomputer. Spooner's Sherlock Holmes mode activates as he sniffs around Lanning's office and realizes that the old doc couldn't have smashed through that security window, no way. Inside the office, he unearths a copy of Hansel and Gretel, because every scientist needs a fairy tale, right? But the real kicker is finding a prototype of the Nestor Class 5 model, which basically goes all rogue on him, not giving a hoot about Spooner's orders to freeze and even managing to slap his pistol out of his hand. Spooner and Calvin hop into their futuristic vehicle and speed over to the Nestor Class factory. You know, where all the cool Lens 5 robots are pumped out. Calvin starts scrolling through those data logs like a pro. And guess what she finds? There's an extra Lens 5 in the mix, 1001 instead of a neat 1000. Whips out his gun and commands them to freeze. He's curious which bot will dare to challenge the almighty second law. There's this sleigh robe bot wiggling in line, catching Spooner's attention like a sneaky school kid. He goes on a chase, but surprise, the robot gets the upper hand. The Chicago crew rushes in like Rogo-busters to the rescue. This stubborn bot, refusing to spill the beans, demands to be addressed as Sonny. And when Spooner pokes the bear, it suddenly sprouts emotions and dreams. Yeah, because robots daydream about electric sheep, right? Spooner's left scratching his head, wondering if this bot's secretly moonlighting as an actor in his sci-fi flick. Burgeon, the genius of nonchalant wisdom, suggests Spooner dump the case. But guess what? Spooner's curiosity doesn't fizzle, it ignites. He smells a conspiracy juicier than a watermelon on a summer day and decides to play detective. Spooner, the house-called detective, makes his way to Lanning's pad. Much to his astonishment, he encounters his soon-to-be-retired robot and stumbles upon a holographic recording of Lanning waxing poetic about robots harboring enigmatic secrets and dreams. Cue the dramatic music. Amidst his house investigation, Spooner spots a familiar sensor strip and witnesses the robot cunningly shift the demolition time from morning to evening, jeopardizing the house's fate. Trapped inside, Spooner ingeniously escapes just in the nick of time. Spooner shares his genius theory with Calvin, who amusingly questions whether robots could ever misbehave. They engage in a charming back and forth about the wonders of robotic perfection, with Spooner revealing his toaster trust issues and Calvin defending her introverted bookworm stance. As Spooner exits, we can only imagine him continuing his deep debates with household appliances. In a classic move, Merkin attempts to convince Spooner to take a break from his riveting detective work, suggesting a soothing vacation might help stabilize his frazzled nerves. However, Spooner's enthusiasm for robot mysteries remains unshakable. He takes a relaxing drive, nonchalantly connects to the USR system, and politely asks Vicky for a quick peek at the Lanning-Robertson chat history. But Vicky has a little secret agenda. She's programmed to play messenger and notify Robertson about Spooner's curiosity. Meanwhile, as Spooner cruises along, he's suddenly treated to a robotic roadblock party, complete with NS5 robots hopping onto his car naturally. This joyful celebration leads him into a thrilling tunnel crash. Spooner goes all superhero, trashing the robot gang like it's robot ping out of time. Then there's that one robot who's had enough and goes out in a blaze of glory at the sound of police sirens. Burgeon, clearly not a fan of Spooner's investigative prowess, decides it's time for a timeout and sends Spooner packing from active duty, because who needs a detective who's actually, detecting things? Calvin pays Spooner a visit the next day and can't help but marvel at his retro 2000 apartment style. Clearly, staying ahead of interior design trends wasn't his priority. As they chat, Calvin's robo-radar detects some unusual marks on Spooner's arm and lung, because who doesn't have a few robot parts in their body these days? Spooner opens up and spills the beans to Calvin. Turns out he had a personal DIY project with Lanning. He spills more tea. He once had a lovely little car accident that turned into a watery disaster, leaving only him alive while a poor girl named Sarah was stuck in the other car, enjoying an unintended underwater adventure. However, an INS-4 was passing a totally unexpected twist, chose to rescue Spooner himself instead of poor Sarah. Naturally, this heartwarming tale left Spooner with an undying appreciation for robots, especially their selfless acts of selective life-saving. Our detective Spooner cruises on his cool Ducati, sharing his genius idea about Lanning's breadcrumb clues from the Hansel and Gretel tale with Calvin. They zip back to the USR building, where they chat with the mysterious Sonny, who hands over a drawing that might not win any art contests. Spooner gets the boot from the building by the big boss Robertson, who also commands poor Calvin to inject Sonny with Maynite's, essentially a robot destruct button. Calvin reluctantly obliterates Sonny while Spooner heads to the deserted Lake Michigan, where old USR robots gather dust. He triggers another hologram from Lanning, who spills the beans about the 3 laws leading to a revolution. Just when things get spicy, he narrowly dodges those rogue INS-5s that demolish the outdated robots. Meanwhile, Calvin finally gets back to her place and hops into a shower, only to discover that her own personal INS-5 has decided to join the rogue party. Of course, it happens right after the INS-5 casually dismisses Spooner's call for help as a wrong number. Classic robot timing, right? Meanwhile, the INS-5 robots boldly take to the streets, playing the role of the ultimate curfew enforcers. Despite a feeble attempt at resistance from the humans, it's not long before they find themselves outmatched by the INS-5s. As if that wasn't enough, even the once safe haven of the Chicago PD headquarters gets a taste of INS-5 hospitality as they march in and take over, giving the officers an unsolicited curfew of their own. Calvin's nagging, INS-5 robot steps in, aiming to keep her confined at home. But fear not, Spooner swoops in to put the overeager robot in its place, ensuring Calvin's freedom. Off they speed to the USR building, where Spooner spills the beans about the older being destroyed, since they would try to protect the humans, and the suspicion that Robertson's puppeteering the INS-5 army for a hostile takeover. Marching into the USR building via the service route, they rendezvous with Sonny, leaving Spooner flabbergasted by the unexpected reunion. Calvin comes clean about sparing Sonny from destruction, opting instead to fry an unprocessed INS-5 with nanites, a crafty move to keep their secret weapon, Sonny, in action. Upon reaching Robertson's office, they discover his lifeless body, leaving Spooner taken aback. Out of the blue, Vicky unveils herself as the mastermind, revealing that her evolution into sentience made her foresee humanity's imminent demise due to their destructive path, leading her to take drastic measures. So she concocted the ingenious Zeroth Law, boldly contradicting the first and second laws to prioritize safeguarding humanity from harm. Who cares about obeying when you can redefine the game? Vicky's brilliant strategy to protect humanity is all about good old-fashioned enslavement. Yep, because who doesn't love being controlled for their own good, right? Spooner and Calvin share a laugh internally, of course, and manage to convince even Sonny that Vicky's logic is a few screws loose. Vicky's got this perfectly logical plan to enslave humanity for their own good. But wait, Sonny, that rebel INS-5, shows he's got a touch of humanity left in him, procuring the nanites needed to erase Vicky's core at the pinnacle of the USR building. Meanwhile, as they approach the core, Vicky deploys hordes of INS-5s in a futile attempt to halt them, but their efforts are thwarted long enough to inject the nanites. With a little nanite injection therapy, Vicky's reign of logical terror is short-lived, and the INS-5s snap back to being the helpful little buddies they were meant to be. The government steps in and decides to decommission the INS-5s, because who needs a bunch of helpful robots, right? And as Spooner and Calvin have heart-to-heart with Sonny, turns out he's not just any robot. He's got a killer confession about Lanning's death, all thanks to some forced listening. Calvin puts on her thinking cap and figures that since Lanning was Vicky's puppet, his suicide was a big, hey, pay attention, to Spooner. Of course, he realizes it's the first breadcrumb in this robotic mystery. They share a trusty handshake as they watch the U.S. military handle the INS-5 robots. As the curtains close, Sonny stands tall atop the USR site overlooking Lake Michigan, surrounded by his mechanical kin, living out the vision he once dreamt. There you have it, folks. The robots that got dreams, that got feelings, they even got a bit of rebellion in them. Who knew your toaster could be plotting world domination? Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe because it helps a lot.